My name's Brady Smith. I'm a tech lead here at Zoo. I've been here for about 7 years and kind of work throughout the development floor. So Zoo is a digital agency, so that means we kind of handle a lot of digital problems for clients. We don't really have a product we offer per se, but we kind of instead offer services and kind of problem solving, kind of creative solution designs and things like that. So we tend to tackle a lot of just really kind of any kind of digital problem kind of across the board. So things from websites to mobile applications and kind of everything in between. My role here at Zoo is a technical lead, which is really just a fun name for somebody who kind of solves a lot of our problems. I tend to be involved in kind of the high level communication between our clients, between our developers, between our executive and anybody who really needs help kind of getting that message across. But it also means actually developing the solution as well and kind of architecting the solution. So I can kind of sometimes be considered a senior developer, but also somebody who kind of just is that a little bit more the communication side of things. How I got into development was I knew from a pretty young age that I wanted to do this. I had a bit of a bend towards math and science. So my first brush with programming was, they still make it, a Lego set called Lego Mindstorms, where you build kind of robots that are made out of Lego Technic pieces. And then from there you can kind of connect gears and motors and sensors to them. And then you do a bit of basic programming, which is at the time was just dragging and dropping windows around on a really primitive computer program. And that would turn on the motors at a certain time, and it was a really kind of rudimentary form of programming. And from there, I actually there was a whole community on the internet back then that would kind of take that Lego brick and kind of rip it apart and actually use more realistic programming languages, so C at the time, to write these more complex programs for it. So that was my first brush from it. And then from there, it went into kind of more, I developed mods for video games that I was playing when I was in high school. Dungeon Siege was the big one I was involved in, but I also used to do a lot for Counter-Strike as well. I think Counter-Strike's still around, but Dungeon Siege unfortunately has been retired these days. So from high school after, it kind of did take a backseat for a little while. I thought for a long time I was gonna be a pharmacist because I thought that was maybe where the money was. But then I actually applied to school, got accepted into the programs that I would need to kind of get going on that track, and realized I didn't like any of it. So from there, it was kind of an easy switch over into comp sci at the University of Saskatchewan, which is kind of where everything kind of took off. I got involved in the internship program there and kind of being able to like understand that that was what I wanted to do. That was what I was good at, and then kind of have a pretty clear career path from like day one within the university was really attractive to me. So kind of making the switch from those biology classes to kind of those intro to computer science classes, I found myself enjoying university a lot more than I was previously, where it was just kind of more of a chore at that point. Technical lead is kind of the culmination of the developer career path. Like it's one of the higher positions. You can go higher than this, but kind of in terms of kind of being somebody who writes code every day, the entry path for that is developer. And to get to be a developer, the schooling that is required is variable. So it's one of these kind of interesting careers where there's a lot of different ways to get in if it's something you're interested in. The traditional route is university, computer science. Most of the major universities will offer that, and that's kind of the route that I took. That was paired up with the internship program, which was kind of a really clear way to get into development. That would have offered me kind of a lot of different opportunities across Canada, across Saskatoon, things like that. I have colleagues that have gone to Sask Polytech, and they're fantastic developers. So that kind of going to that technical schooling is another really good way. And we actually even have a couple guys who are self-taught, and they've kind of been able to go on the internet, because the internet is kind of created by people in my field. They kind of want to share what they've learned. So there's a ton of really good, just resources if you want to self-teach. That's the most difficult route to get into development. But if you can kind of tackle that and kind of you have the drive, there's a lot of different ways to become a developer. So there's very much a typical kind of personality who becomes a developer. That's kind of me. They're the people who kind of excel at math. They kind of excel at logic. They're the kind of high schoolers who enjoy board games and kind of building systems and kind of tearing them apart. But the field is also wide enough that there's a lot of room for the non kind of logical people. We have a lot of people here who are more creative, They would have been more the kind of artistic students, and they kind of go into the more of the design and the kind of development that kind of works with that I'm actually not very strong in at all. It's hard to characterize your average developer just because it's such a wide field. But if we did, it'd be the kind of the math, the science, those people who like video games and board games and things like that. Development, that was one of the things that really did appeal to me. If I'd kind of stuck with the pharmacy route, I would have been by myself. But working as a developer on a team, it really allows me to work with a bunch of different people who are complementary to my own set of skills. So we can kind of work with people who are maybe better at talking to people on my behalf, and I can kind of work with people who kind of can build better kind of UI experiences than I can build, and I can kind of bring that extra piece of the puzzle. So it ends up being a really collaborative experience. I spend the majority of my time not really by myself writing code, but kind of bouncing between those scenarios where I'm working by myself and then kind of collaborating with other people to build their code or show them what I'm building or kind of work on something together. So if I was to give kind of some advice to a high school student who's looking to get started, the really good thing about development is there's a lot of ways to test it before you kind of commit to it in the schooling format. So if you're interested in it, you should just try building stuff. There's a lot of good resources online in terms of building websites, in terms of kind of the way I approach development, which was kind of building editions for my favorite games and things like that. If I was giving advice for a student entering the field, that'd be where I'd start. Is kind of like build something that you're interested in, find something that you have in your life already, and then try to figure out a way to both break and then kind of improve it from there using software.